Yo, what's up, guys? This is Zach, and I am back with another PBL battle. This is week 11. It's your Goldenrod City Gallades versus Jake of the Puzzle City Pikipeks. I've done a lot of prep for this match. I really wanted to make sure I didn't get stalled out by the Celesteela, and also address some of his other issues on his team. So, without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into this match. Coming in, I'm 3-8, not so great. Obviously, I inherited some record, but I mean, my personal record is even worse. I believe I'm 1-3, so I need to start making some corrections, and I think my prep has given me some confidence to play a little more like I want to. So he leads off with Nas, and my Skarmory is out. So obviously, a Heat Wave is coming, and I need to get out. This thing is not going to resist being able to Heat Wave my wall. So I got into Princess the Primarina, who can take a Heat Wave pretty well. And Primarina is often run with Choice Specs, so Choice Specs Hydro Pump would destroy this Necrozma, I think. And I think he recognizes that and goes out to Swampert, but to be honest, I believe a Choice Specs Hydro Pump would have killed the Swampert anyway, if it landed, of course. But I go for the Moonblast just because I don't want to risk not landing it. And it actually does some decent damage, and I've actually given a little bit of speed investment into Primarina to kind of break a speed tie, and it paid off. So I actually outsped, got that second Moonblast, and that's down. So Breloom comes out, and there's a main goal for Breloom is to spore something and start getting some momentum. So one of the reasons I have Rafflesia this week is I can't get spored. So he spores, Rafflesia takes it, and I can actually one-hit KO him with a Sludge Bomb back. So I know he's not going to stay in, and I'm going to start making some predictions. So here I'm going to predict he's going to swap out to something else, and I'm going to get a Leech Seed off. There's no way that Breloom's going to stay in knowing I can Sludge Bomb him. So I get a nice Leech Seed onto this Tyranitar. So this Tyranitar, most of the time, has been a banded Tyranitar, and I've prepared for that. I have a physically defensive Venusaur that can take some hits, even the hardest hits that Tyranitar throws out. But he does miss that Stone Edge, which is pretty unlucky. I believe a Stone Edge does a little less than half. So I would have taken it alright, but I mean, that's a fair amount of damage. It's unaccounted for, so it's unlucky that he missed it. My Energy Ball does about half as well, though, and I get some Leech Seed recovery. So Tyranitar is very low right off the bat, and I think he realizes he's got to go because this Tyranitar is going to go down if he tries another Stone Edge. So he brings out Soul Stealer. So Venusaur was also built this week to address the problem of Soul Stealer the Celesteela. I know this thing likes to Leech Seed Protect and stall out mons. You can't Leech Seed me, I'm a Grass type. So, similar to the strategy that Trez used last week with his Celebi, I'm just going to stay in and Leech Seed you. And you can see that he did not expect that, and he Leech Seeds on whatever I was going to swap out to. I have such a hard time saying the word swap in my recordings. I'm also in a very cold room right now, just to avoid any background noise. Anyway, so that Leech Seed didn't work, and I'm just going to Energy Ball. I'm just Energy Balling to see if he swaps out to something else that would take a hit from Energy Ball. He goes Tyranitar, that's going to hurt. In a perfect world, he goes back out to Tyranitar for some crazy reason, but he's not going to do that. He Heavy Slams, you can see I take that pretty well, and I'm just going to keep getting health recovery from him. So we can keep doing this over and over. So he realizes I'm determined to stay in. I'm just going to keep Energy Balling, even though it does literally like nothing. And he's going to use a Flamethrower. So I expected Flamethrower. I expected this common set that he's brought a few times, which is just like Protect, Leech Seed, Heavy Slam, Flamethrower. It's just stalling things out, and then some Flamethrower for some coverage. I would have been more concerned if he did like Air Slash or something. It would have done a fair amount more damage, and it would have done over half, and kind of would have negated my recovery stall tactic. But he brought Flamethrower, so we're good. As long as he doesn't get a burn, we're alright. So I recover back up to full HP, and he's just going to keep Flamethrowing me, but I think after this turn he realizes that this is not a battle he's going to win. My Black Sludge comes up, his leftovers pop, and then I get my Leech Seed recovery back. So Like many battles that we've seen in the past, the Celesteela has a lot of after-turn animations to go through, along with the Pokemon that they're battling. It's not only Celesteela, but pretty often leads to that with Celesteela out. So he comes out to Reaper, and I Energy Ball, just seeing what damage I can get off. So Reaper was one mon that I wasn't fully prepared for. I considered it, but I didn't create an entire counter around it. I brought Princess out here, which could take 2 Shadow Bones as long as they weren't both high rolls. But he just goes for a Swords Dance, which is kind of alarming because he just needs 1 high roll Shadow Bone now. But it looks like he ran bulky Alola Marowak and not speed invested Alola Marowak, so I outspeed, I get a Scald off, and that Marowak is gone. So before he could do anything too lasting and scary, I got him out of the way, so it's nice. So last time I went to Rafflesia to avoid a Spore, so I don't think he's going to Spore with his Breloom this time. I'm actually going to go out to my Victini. So he's going to Bullet Seed. I'm going to take a fair amount of damage, to be honest, because Victini's not physically defensive this week. So I'll take some decent damage even though it's resisted. And he hits 3 times. So Victini was built in a specific way this week. I wanted Victini to come in on Breloom or Rabombi, or there's someone else as well, I think Celesteela. And I wanted to force a switch so that I can Will-O-Wisp his answers coming in. I figured one of his best answers to Victini is his Tyranitar. So I really wanted to Will-O-Wisp that Tyranitar on switch, but he brings out Necrozma instead. I burn it. Not the hugest deal, but it looks like he ran a little bit of a mixed Necrozma this week. So I'm going to go ahead and Searing Shot because I know it does like 30 to 40%. And the best thing he can do to me, so he goes for this knockoff, and that's where the burn is important. That did much less damage than it would have. But like the best thing he can do to me is like a Dark Pulse or a Power Gem. And I'm actually specially defensive Victini this week. I figured for 1 week I wanted to run a weird Victini set that isn't seen all too often. So I ran specially defensive Will-O-Wisp Victini specifically for those swapping events I was talking about. So knowing that, I can beat this Necrozma 101, and I think Jake realizes that and sets up his own rocks. And I just let off this final Searing Shot to get the Necrozma down. So Necrozma's gone. And like I thought before, his answer was Tyranitar, but he gets a free switch. He's not going to get Will-O-Wisp here. So one thing I really could have done if I wanted to is go out into Birdo and take the Stone Edge and kind of try to work around it, but I didn't want to do that. I'd rather have a free switch, and on the off chance that this Tyranitar isn't fully invested in speed, I could have gotten a Will-O-Wisp off, so that's just kind of what I went for, is just a Will-O-Wisp to see if I got lucky, and he didn't have enough speed, but if not, then okay, I'm sacking that Victini off, and getting a free switch in. So since that Tyranitar is so low, I brought out my Raikou, which has max special attack reaction nature, so that Thunderbolt would have hurt, even though Tyranitar has special defense boost in the sand, it would have KO'd. It does about half to Breloom, but he's just over half, so a Thunderbolt would likely not knock it out, so I'm just going to Volt Switch out, and just kind of go back to the same answer I had for Breloom earlier, which is Rafflesia. So there's nothing this Breloom can do that scares Rafflesia, except for he could Rock Tomb for neutral damage, which really wouldn't do all that much with a physically defensive Venusaur. It would just lower my speed. But he just goes for a Bolt Seed, and you can see it's doing 7 damage, 8 damage, and he only hit 2 times, so it's pretty unlucky, but I mean, he had like 24 more damage tops from 5 hits, unless he got some crits or something. It wouldn't have been much damage if he hit 5 times anyway. So it's not the most crucial 2-roll. But here he goes with that Rock Tomb I mentioned before. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it does lower my speed. Earlier I was outspeeding a Celesteela, so in this case, now that my speed is lowered, I actually would not outspeed the Celesteela, so that was something that was in the back of my mind if you brought that back out. But I just KO that with an Energy Ball. If he brought anything else in, it would take Energy Ball damage. So he brings in Tyran so far. So I'm pretty low right now. I'm at like 30%, and I'm not taking anything this Tyranitar does. So now I'm gonna make that Birdo switch I was thinking about earlier. I'll take a Stone Edge or whatever he throws at me. But he goes for an Ice Punch, so looks like he ran Ice Punch instead of Fire Punch for my Venusaur and probably Gligar. He was probably more prepped for Gligar than he was for Skarmory, because if you have Fire Punch and went for that, then it would have obviously done much more damage. But he ran Ice Punch, so Skarmory takes it pretty well. And I'm just going to set up my own rocks on the swap. He can't keep Ice Punching me unless he's hoping for a freeze, so I know he's going to swap, and I'm going to go ahead and get my Stealth Rocks up. But now I can't stay in. I can't leave Skarmory in on the Celesteela. He's just going to go for a Leech Seed and start stalling things out. To be honest, he could have gone for a Flamethrower, but I think he knows I'm swapping out, and he wants to Leech Seed something else. And he didn't expect me to just swap straight back into this Venusaur at such low HP, but he goes for the Leech Seed, doesn't work. And I no longer have that speed drop, so I outspeed Celesteela again. And the Sandstorm is gone, so my Synthesis is back at its full power, full capability, so I heal half my HP back. So, back up. And this Flamethrower, we're back to where we started in the beginning of the match. So this Flamethrower is going to do like high 30s, maybe 40%. If he doesn't get the burn, he's making no progress. And I'm just going to go ahead and start this all over again. So I'm going to Leech Seed, and we're going to... I know I live one more Flamethrower, and then I'm going to get all my recovery back, unless he gets a crit. So he Flamethrowers, brings me down to 11, so pretty close. But like I said, I knew I lived with all the rolls he was getting. I knew I lived unless he got a crit. So even though it was close, it's okay, guys. It's okay. So I get some Leech Seed recovery, and knowing I outspeed the Celesteela, now I can start just doing my Synthesis, and he knows I can do that, so he's just going to swap into Tyranitar. Tyranitar Sandstream is actually an issue for my Synthesis, because now it only does about a quarter HP instead of half. It's kind of a downfall of using Synthesis as a recovery move, but I mean, that's what Venusaur has. So I only come up to about half HP, but what I mentioned earlier with this physically defensive Venusaur, even though he's banded, I know I live Ice Punch or Stone Edge. Both of them do the same damage after all the math is done. And I do live, and I Energy Ball. And I think at that point Jake was kind of unimpressed with the damage his Tyranitar did. He was kind of like, what was that? And I was like, well, I'm physically defensive this week, so it was really here to take care of Tyranitar and Celesteela. Venusaur's debut went pretty well, I think, in my mind. So another thing, I could have swapped out here to like Raikou to just try to clean this up and deal with this Protect, Leech Seed, stall, but I'm just going to go ahead and Leech Seed and let this Venusaur go down. Venusaur did its job, did a fantastic job this week, but I'm not going to sit here and try to milk every KO differential I can. I'm just going to see if I can Leech Seed this Celesteela and kind of put a timer on the end of the battle so it's not a long drawn out Leech Seed fest at the end. So now I can come out to Raikou on a free switch, and this Celesteela is Leech Seeded, so I know I can just Thunderbolt here, and he protects. So the interesting thing is Celesteela normally protects to get HP back, and so that the other opponent loses HP because of Celesteela's Leech Seed. But since Celesteela is the one that is Leech Seeded currently, that Protect actually makes Celesteela lose HP in the end. It's actually a net loss of HP and a net gain of HP for me, so that Protect wasn't so useful. But I'm just going to go ahead and get this Thunderbolt off, and Celesteela goes down. So at the end, it's a 4-0 or a 6-2, however you want to judge it. And I'm pretty happy with my prep. I think my prep really allowed me to play more comfortably and do a lot of the predictions I wanted to do. Jake has a pretty awesome team, so I had to make sure I made some good preparations for it. I saw that now Jake has made a trade and he has Lando T instead of Celesteela, which is a completely different kind of defensive. And I think he could do some really cool things with it. So looking forward to what Jake does with Lando T on his team. But anyway, Now I'm 4-8, I believe, so a little more impressive, I guess. My main goal, I think, that I've set for myself is to have a record that's good enough to qualify for playoffs if I were in the Kanto division, even though I'm not in the Kanto division and will not be going to playoffs. I just think it'd be funny if I could get a good enough record that would have qualified me. But anyway, it's been fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next week.